Hi everyone, welcome back to the kitchen. I have a really special treat for you tonight. We've got a wonderful guest chef that's going to show you some of his wonderful food. His name is Erick, and he is the executive chef and owner of Eat, an American Bistro right down here at the ocean front. And trust me, his food is amazing. He's gotten awards and he's been in magazines, so I'm really proud to introduce
Hello.
Erick.
Hi, how we doing? Today we're going to be doing a fresh corn tamale with smoked corn, duck breast, chili sauce, and a pumpkin seed pesto. I've got all my ingredients here. I guess we'll go ahead and get started on the tamale and get rolling.
Sounds great.
Alright, so what we have here is we have masa, which is a corn flour. There's a couple different types of corn flour you can use. This is typically used to make corn tortillas. This works perfectly. It's milled to the right consistency. You can use yellow cornmeal. That works fine, or white cornmeal, blue cornmeal, whatever works. But this is readily available at Food Lion or wherever you want to go. This is the stuff I normally use, mixed with maybe some roasted corn flour. This stuff's perfect. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it here. We're going to start off with using probably about a cup and a half of masa, maybe 2 cups, depending. And then these are a lighter version of tamales that most people have. Most tamales that you get in kind of the Mexican spots are kind of, they're a little more dense. These are lighter and fluffier. And the way we get that is we use fresh corn in it. And the fresh corn we are using here is smoked. So that'll give it a nice little twist on a normal tamale. Okay, so I'm gonna add my corn to the blender. That's 1 ear of corn worth of corn kernels. I've got some white onion here. We're gonna add probably, I don't know, probably a quarter of a white onion, 1 clove of garlic, and I've got some chicken stock that I have heated up over here on the range. We're gonna add that. It's gonna be our liquid component. And I'll just start by just enough to not really cover it, just almost to the top. And then we can always go back and add some more. I like it to be hot. We don't want to do it cold because it'll seize up a little bit when we're going to add some butter and some shortening to it. And I think this is probably our low. Just going to blend it up just enough to get it kind of mixed together, almost to a, I don't know what we would call this, like a gruel consistency. Corn mixture here with the pureed smoked corn, onions, garlic, and chicken stock. I've kept it hot, so when we cut in our butter and shortening, it doesn't seize up and we don't have big chunks of butter in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working in my wet ingredients into my corn flour, little bit by little bit. That should be enough to get me where I want to go. We kind of want to make a dough out of this. Oh, I forgot, a little bit of sugar. Getting it to kind of a consistency of, I don't know, what would you call that? Like
a wet dough.
Kind of like a wet Play-Doh.
Yeah. I tell you, the smokiness of the corn smells so good.
It does.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and use all of that in here. Just use the dough to kind of get it out of there. You don't want it too dry. Mm-hmm. Okay. So now I'm going to cut in my butter. I've got some softened butter in with the melted butter. I'm picking out the softened stuff to kind of just work it in. I like lots of butter, so we're gonna add a little more. But you don't want too much.
That make it greasy.
It'll make it greasy and it'll start to separate.
Oh.
And then we're gonna cut in a little bit of shortening, and this will help actually condition the flour a little bit, more so than the butter will. Kind of give it a nice mouthfeel. So now that we've got our dough made, you know what else I like to do is I'm gonna take one of those corn, I brought some more corn, I'm gonna cut it up and I'm gonna add whole corn kernels to that.
Okay. So
I've cut some smoked corn off the cob, and I'm gonna add this in here for some texture. It makes it a little more interesting to have ingredient that actually, I guess it's 3 different ways. We have pureed corn, we have corn flour, and then we have whole corn kernels, 2 of which have been smoked. So we've got our dough here, and now it's time to start making some tamales.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so what we have here is we have dried corn husks, and these are, can't eat them, but they're really good wrappers, really good for steaming things in. In this case, the corn dough, but you can also use it to steam fish or shrimp or vegetables or whatever else. And they're really cheap little vessels. And so what I'm doing, I'm looking for kind of the bigger ones, because that's what we want to wrap our tamales. And what I do is I get about a kiwi size amount of dough. You can put it right in the center like that, and then we want to just make sure it's closed. And then kind of what I do is I just make a little pinch on either side to see if we're gonna be coming out once we start the steaming process, because it's gonna want to expand. So I've got another one, same thing. About maybe an egg size bit of dough. In there like that.
Do you just wrap them up, tie them with twine, or just kind of twist them and fold them?
I tie them with, I'm going to be using some of the smaller pieces of corn husk. And I'm going to rip those down into little pieces of cordage to kind of affix the ends.
That makes sense. I like that better than twine.
And you can actually use this same dough if you add a little bit of baking powder to it, and you can make corn muffins.
Oh, nice.
That makes a pretty good corn muffin. So if I have one that's not too small, that's too small, what I'll do is I'll do the same thing, but then I'll take another wrapper, and just kind of wrap the outside like that. So we can utilize all of our, I don't see enough, maybe we can do one more. But you just want to make sure that the outside of the dough is completely encased, because you don't want that popping out. And it's okay if it does, you can just knock it off. But that's kind of like where I like to get them. And then what I'll do, let me wash my hand real quick.
Okay.
All right, so what I like to do is I take them, and I take the smaller pieces that you probably couldn't use for anything else, and I'll just tie them into strips, like so. And kind of like the longer the better, if given the choice, you want them longer, but you don't want to be tearing up your nice big husks. So what you do is just tie it on one end, and you want it pretty tight, because it's going to, once it starts steaming, it's going to want to come unraveled. I do a double knot typically, and then I'll push the dough, but you want to leave enough room because it's going to expand. And so I've got room on either ends for that dough to steam and kind of move towards the end. And you can fold these And if you can't get a double knot around there, sometimes what I'll do is I'll just take 2 pieces. And we're going to be opening up one ends of these for presentation purposes, so one end doesn't have to be perfect. So that's one finished tamale. And I'll go ahead and tie these, and we can. All right, so we're going to go ahead and steam off the tamales. They take about anywhere from 20 to 35, sometimes 40 minutes, depending how big they are. We'll check them here and there. But I have a stovetop steamer set up. We're going to go ahead and place them in here. And if they get a little crowded, it's okay. It's not gonna hurt anything. It's not like we're making dim sum where they'll stick. They'll come apart just fine. So as long as they're just there's enough steam circulating around them to cook them evenly, that's fine. And we'll go ahead and put that on. We'll check to see if we got plenty of water, which it looks like we have a bit. We might have to come back and fill it up here in a little bit. And we can turn that heat back just a little bit. Okay. And now I'm going to start heating up my pan for, I'm going to roast some chilies for black garlic chili sauce. God, I love gas. Oh my God. I don't have gas at my house, I have electric, so Chef D has a very nice range top. Here I've got some New Mexico chilies. I've got some Morita chilies. I like ancho. I didn't have any of those, but this is what we're going to use. So what we're going to do is we're just going to toast these guys up. I might actually add a little bit more chilies. And the seed pods and the seeds are okay.
Oh, good.
Let's see, where did my... There we are. We'll just add a little bit more. And what I like to do is kind of when it starts smoking and we start to get that chili in the air without choking us out of the kitchen, we know we've got them toasted enough. Make sure I got enough heat on that. And we do.
About how long does that take to toast the
It
chilies?
depends on this fantastic range. It shouldn't take long at all, but once we start to see some smoke, that's typically when I like to kind of start tossing them around.
And it's a dry pan?
It's a dry pan,
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay, so no oil or anything. Okay.
The drier the better, and that same way I like to do my seeds or spices. If I'm toasting oregano, dry pan, cast iron is ideal.
Can you use the oven for that too? Or?
You could use the oven, absolutely. Probably at, I would say, 450. You want it pretty hot, and then just make sure you keep an eye on it, because they can get away with you pretty quick.
Okay.
And so we got some smoke starting,
Okay.
and that's a good sign. They're going to puff up a little bit. That doesn't really matter, but we're really going for the toasted flavor.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay.
So our chilies are nice and toasted. I'm going to start making the chili sauce in the pan, and then we'll transfer it over to the blender. I've got some reduced roasted chicken stock that I'm just going to add right in, and that'll help hydrate the chilies. I've got some really nice peeled black garlic, which
Nice.
kind of gives it, I think it kind of tastes like a sweet Worcestershire
Really?
somewhat. Depending on if you make your own black garlic, you can kind of control how that flavor goes. This is a product we got.
Oh, look at that.
So we're going to add the black garlic right in. We're going to add some onion in there, just a little bit. And then we've got some roasted blistered tomatoes. I'm going to add that right in. I'm going to add a little bit of fresh garlic. I'm just going to smush a couple of them.
So where does black garlic come from? How is it? Is it like a fermented?
It's a fermented garlic that they ferment, and on the whole head is fermented, and it's you can do it in a yogurt maker actually. Will
Wow.
do it, but it's